心配しなくても君の正体がバレることはない。変身すると認識を阻害できるようになる。
Yeah, we know my whole Acro rules that also somehow get around stuff like voice and general body shape. We opened this week with the town setting up for the rainy season and also reminding us that these geriatrics were swole as all hell. Yeah, could you at least do chocolate? I've heard that's at least a flavor that's hard to mess up. Yet, regardless of the weather, it wasn't going to stop our dedicated villains from another confrontation with their mortal enemy, unless their socks were getting wet, because come on, that's gonna make laundry day a pain in the ass. As such, yet again, Chroma left the initial confrontation with Kaju to Chizuko while he dried out his boots. Oh, come on, girl. Have you not seen the opening to the Kamen Rider Blade movie? When the riders actually go a little too hard. Anyway, Chizuko decided to take shelter under some playground equipment, and of course ran into her idol, also trying to stay dry. And after explaining the situation with Chroma, the magical girl suggested that her mortal enemy just casually sit by her.
That makes sense to me.
However, not wanting her idol to catch a cold, Chizuko offered her cape poncho thing to her. In return, Kaju wanted to offer her something to warm her up. That's some good dandruff. Actually, the more I think about it, I think this stand would actually like that. And even if there wasn't any in that soup, I'm pretty sure there was plenty on that bread. But yeah, I guess Kaju just happened to have a hammer space under her hat, which also housed a freaking heater. Well, either that or she has some seriously strong neck muscles. Also, since she kept calling Chizuko Dante Kun, I'm pretty sure she was mistaking her for a boy in spite of what the subtitles say. Thank you, Crunchyroll. But yeah, as a result, this is a case of Yuri through misgendering, but hey, take what you can get. I mean, the Neanderthal cures are good, but we do need a little more variety until at least Mahotsukai 2 comes out. Anyway, Kaju figured that someone who was clearly not at all an evil person of indiscriminate gender was probably being forced into evil, which again is a bit of a different show. Though really, both of these purple heads did eventually get into their antagonist roles, especially if it meant their respective magical girls could receive the glory and admiration they believed they deserved. Thus Chizuko tried to keep up the act. Though I think the more proper term for this would be try-hard edgelord. Of course, it worked on Kaju, because as genuinely amiable and kind as she was, she only really had about 2 working brain cells. Anyway, the segment ended with Chroma finally arriving, and Kaju explaining all of the quote-unquote evils his subordinate had inflicted on her, which really only amounted to a little food mooching, which she got a cool cape out of, so yeah, not really that bad. Still, cute stuff, and who doesn't like a little Yuri? The next part of the episode, that would pretty much take up the remainder of it, featured Chizuko still trying to figure out this whole evil thing. Well, considering what the next season is going to be about, you could start taking some pointers from this guy. Though she did encounter somewhat of a close approximation when she ran to Omizo just kind of hanging out on the entrance gate to their shopping arcade. Wanting to save him while still being kind of evil, Chizuko induced a little panic by saying that there were some Kuma Kaiju nearby, and I kind of love everyone's half-hearted reaction to that. Like, I guess it would figure that the civilians in these sort of shows would become rather jaded to this whole monster attack stuff. Anyway, she tried to calm down, disregarding the fact that she had no way of catching him, but of course Kaju came in to save the day. Yeah, you actually might want to be careful while rescuing too many of those guys, otherwise you may end up with a lawsuit that will start up a really great movie, but then you'll get a really awful sequel afterwards. Yes, Incredibles 2 is one of the worst Pixar movies in my opinion, fight me. Anyway, after a little more Yuri with correct gendering, Omizu offered to reward the 2 young girls, which, yeah, should set off some stranger danger alerts, but let's be honest, the real menace here is the purple one. Still, a strawberry parfait managed to loosen Kaju's lips enough that she ended up mentioning Mashiro to Omizu, who of course recognized that name, and as we saw in the last episode, he had caught on to the fact that Kaju was using magic that his company had produced. All of this naturally flew over Chizuko's head, who made this great face, but again, I'm pretty sure the most dangerous person at this table is still the thirsty lesbian. Still, they ended up taking his business card and learned who he was. Afterwards, Kaju's hat rang, as apparently this girl doesn't believe in pockets. It was Masho looking for his partner, and yeah, you could kind of guess where this was going. Of course, he revealed Masho's backstory, which rightfully left everyone in shock, but then the truest of evils reared its ugly head.
Y'all are really desperate for headlines after the election, aren't ya?
As a result of them, Omiso and Masho managed to slip away. Later, Chizuko managed to learn from Chroma that was indeed their boss. In turn, she told him about how Omiso outed the mascot character as one of their former co-workers. From here, it was left a little ambiguous as to whether or not Chroma was able to put two and two together that Masho was his old friend. I mean, he is dense, so it is very possible that he didn't catch on. Plus, he didn't often refer to Masho by his first name, so he might have outright forgotten it. But he also made this face, so it's hard to say. Anyway, after her partner didn't return home, Kaju wasn't able to sleep that night. Thus, with some very clear bags under her eyes, she tried to confront Fosa Magna while CNN was still trying to get their story.
Well, it's still a better entrance than Kodo Ibushi's. Yeah, fun fact, pro wrestlers never learn how to ride bikes.
With that, Kaju engaged Akuma Kaijin in a not too impressive fight, though to be fair, that was kind of the point, as the magical girl passed out in the middle of it. Rightfully, not wanting the tabloids to write a hit piece on her, the two villains quickly took Kaju away from the camera lenses. They tried to nurse her back to health whilst listening to Grandpa's tall fishtails.
Dio was just never the same after Jotaro stopped answering his calls.
Also, you just gotta love how this old geezer constantly just marches to the beat of his own drum. Anyway, they tried to get some intel out of Heath, but got nothing. Though fortunately, Gramps did see Masho and Omiso at the train station. Thus, Chizuko went ahead to scout things out, while Chroma remained on standby, and yeah, I gotta wonder if he was starting to catch on. She managed to find both the mascot and her boss, with the former clearly not in the mood to talk. With that though, the episode ended on a pretty badass note, with Omiso inviting Chizuko to discuss things with them, and the evil villainess graciously accepting his offer, and also getting a salmon bento while she was at it.
This was a decent little penultimate episode for this little series.
I mean, it's probably not fair to give full judgment to an episode like this without seeing the next, but on its own, it did have some very cute moments.
Yeah, for a show that was originally based on a shoujo manga, there was a little more Yuri than I was expecting, not that I can complain, mind you.
Part of the reason it's hard to judge a penultimate episode to any series is just the fact that it's meant to be an incomplete story, so the events of the final episode can affect our impressions of it either positively or negatively. That said, the stuff we saw before the concluding story arc, i.e. the first segment of this episode, can be judged on its own, and yeah, it was cute as all hell. I mean, until Mahou Acro Season 2 comes around, this is the closest thing we can get to some good magical girl and villainous Yuri, and this was wholesome as well as pretty hilarious with Kaju's hammer space hat. Meanwhile, looking at the potential of the final episode, it really does feel like everything is coming to a natural head, with Masho being exposed, Chroma possibly catching on to his secret, and of course Chizuko's efforts to resolve all of this. There's a lot they'll probably need to cover for the final episode, so it's hard to say whether or not they'll be able to pull it off. Having read ahead in the original manga, I can't really say they won't reach that ending, and might even need a whole nother season for that, unless they do their own original anime ending. Regardless, this episode, on its own, was a solid build-up to some sort of finale, and the first segment's Yuri in the Rain was very enjoyable. We'll just have to see if PG Magia Baiser will be able to give us a satisfying conclusion alongside her partner, who probably should just go buy new shoes at this point.
Thank you for watching, and hey, maybe for Christmas this year, you could give yourself the gift of watching a few more videos on this channel, just saying.
Now that most of the stuff from this season is almost over, I think we can go back to focusing on some projects that we've had in the oven for a while, and also start working on new stuff for 2025.
Look forward to all of that. Until then though, fair for now my friends, and of course it would come down as I'm recording. Oh well, I have just a solution for that.